Brussels is escalating and heading toward a breaking point as anger rises despite every restriction. Deportations to Albania continue, and this has become an open declaration of war against the EU elite. Stay with us until the end today because it is going to be explosive. In Rome yesterday, Meloni and Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama stood shoulder to shoulder, and their message could not be clearer. The agreement with Albania bypasses every left-leaning Italian judge despite the European Court of Justice and despite the warnings shouted by Amnesty International and every human rights organization driven by ideology. Italy continues the expulsions. According to Meloni, as soon as the new EU Pact on Migration and Asylum comes into force in 2026, the camps will operate exactly as originally planned. She is counting on the Brussels bureaucracy to ultimately enforce her national agenda. 2 centers financed and run by Italy in the Albanian region of Schengen are expected to hold up to 3,000 migrants at once, and more than 36,000 per year outside the EU but under Italian jurisdiction, with Italian security forces and Italian judges appearing by video conference from Rome. It is a moment of national liberation. But then came the blow from the bureaucratic machine. Italian courts and the ECJ halted the expulsions, arguing that Egypt and Bangladesh are not considered safe countries of origin. It sounds absurd, but that is EU law in 2025. And now comes the big shock. It concerns the sacred doctrine of the EU bureaucrats, the migrant quota system. Italy, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic are prepared to resist. Hardliners say they will no longer take in migrants, nor pay compensation for refusing them. A compromise is impossible. A bloc of hardline governments, led by Meloni in Italy and Orban in Hungary, is ready to challenge the EU over a redistribution plan based on quotas. Brussels announced a new relocation plan supposedly to ease pressure on hotspot countries, but this means that Central and Eastern European states, and ironically Italy itself, will be forced to pay and host migrants. Under the pact, every EU country must contribute. Either they relocate asylum seekers to their territory or they pay €20,000 per person. They refuse to accept or they provide operational support. Meloni responded bluntly. Italy will not take in migrants under the Migration Pact, and we will not pay for refusing them. This is what she wrote on X immediately after the Commission presented its report. It is an open challenge to Brussels. Meloni is under heavy pressure from the left opposition, but she refuses to bend. Instead, she chooses national self-determination, and she is not alone. Viktor Orban in Hungary insists his country will not apply the pact, will not take migrants, and will not pay a single cent. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico also warns Brussels there will be no mandatory system, no solidarity pool. In the Czech Republic, the likely future Prime Minister Andrej Babis has already rejected the quota system, citing national security. This is where a new Europe is emerging, a Europe based on national interests, refusing to pay for mistakes created by ideology. The EU bureaucracy is now twisting itself into knots, discussing exemptions. According to the Commission of Italy, the Czech Republic and 2 other states could request exemption because they are also facing significant migratory pressure. Italy will almost certainly ask for it immediately, but every exemption must be approved by EU ministers, which means granting Meloni an exemption would make the entire system collapse, while refusing it would be a declaration of war against her bloc. Even EU officials admit that granting an exemption to one country and denying it to another would be nearly impossible. The truth is that implementing the pact will be extremely difficult, and countries like Hungary and Slovakia, which technically do not qualify for exemptions, could still challenge the law. If most member states refuse relocation, the Commission cannot sanction all of them. The EU is trapped in its own bureaucracy, and Meloni is pulling the plug. Italy has militarized its coastline not as a symbolic gesture but as a clear message. The era of free entry is over. Those who arrive illegally by sea will no longer automatically disembark in Italy, but will instead be taken to Albania, into secure detention centers, funded and controlled by Italy. Asylum procedures will be completed in 28 days. Those approved may enter. Those rejected will be expelled immediately, without detours, and without false promises of integration. After securing the coastline, Italy is also preparing to tighten land border controls. Meloni strongly criticizes the current asylum laws and refuses to accept migrants registered in other EU states such as Spain. And how does the EU react? They rage. The European Court of Justice claims Albania is not safe. Human rights groups scream about shameful detention centers. Left-leaning media compare the camps to expensive prisons. And Brussels, of course, wants to negotiate, debate, and send paperwork. But while they debate endlessly, Italy protects its borders and its citizens. Do you see what is happening? A whole continent is being humiliated. Meloni is breaking the great taboo. She is proving that national solutions work, and this terrifies the power network of bureaucrats, NGOs, and left-leaning opinion makers who have insisted for years that no alternatives exist. But there are alternatives and they work. Even Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz looks weak beside Meloni. While he talks about responsibility, she takes it. While he calls for action, she acts. The message is clear. Those who want order must show courage, not speeches. While German AfD politicians fear for their lives and their cars are set on fire, Italy takes action. After violent Antifa riots in Milan that injured dozens of police officers, Meloni pulled the emergency brake. No more tolerance for left-wing violence. Where some mayors downplay the incidents, Meloni calls it clearly what it is. Far-left violence. Arrests follow and prosecutions begin. These events are being watched closely in Germany, especially by the AfD, which demands for Antifa to be listed as a terrorist organization. Outside the AfD, no mainstream party even touches the subject. And as Meloni breaks taboos, others begin to follow. The Netherlands is studying her model. The United Kingdom praises her openly. Even Ursula von der Leyen suddenly speaks about unconventional solutions as if she had not spent 10 years blocking exactly those solutions. As if the mass migration of recent years were just a random accident, new Ursula, new Brussels. It was a political failure, and Meloni is your mirror. This is the reality of 2025, a reality in which Italy says, we're not waiting anymore. We protect our country, and the EU stands there like an old school teacher no one listens to. Meloni's message is clear. If Brussels fails, we act alone. This is not a threat, it is a promise, and this is only the beginning. Citizens support her. Her approval ratings remain extremely high, not because everyone agrees with her, but because she does what she promised. A leader judged not by words, but by actions. A shocking concept in an EU obsessed with gender quotas, carbon certificates, and rainbow politics instead of security, order, and the future. According to Meloni, the state must protect its citizens, not re-educate society. While the EU keeps debating, Italy shows real capability. If Italy can follow this path, other countries can. Subscribe, like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and join the Telegram channel for more updates from Europe Future Desk.